Welcome back, everybody, to the Skift Travel Podcast. I'm Skift's editor-in-chief, Sarah Kopit, joined, as always, by Skift's head of research, Seth Borko. Hey, Seth, how you doing?
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
So today we are talking about something that I personally am very, very familiar with, family travel. And according to a new Skift Research report on U.S. travel trends, it's something that many other Americans also know well. The report finds that family travel constitutes the largest segment of U.S. leisure travel. Let me say that again, the largest segment. So joining us today to talk about what that means for the business of travel is the report's lead author, Skift Research Manager, Varsha Arora. Hey, Varsha, how you doing today?
Hi, Sarah. Doing all good. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. I'm so glad to hear it. So, just a quick reminder before we get started to send any questions or comments that you have to podcasts@skift.com. And please don't forget to subscribe to this pod wherever you're listening or watching. And if you enjoyed the show, please rate us 5 stars or leave us a positive review. It's so very important to us and we appreciate it so we can spread the word about the Skift Travel Podcast.
Well, thank you for liking and subscribing to start with, but let's start the conversation with you, Varsha. So when we talk about a research project, Varsha, right, this is something that we talk a lot at the STAR projects, one of the things we always ask when we're going to do a survey is we want to really understand the travelers, understand the demographic that we're studying. So I know we always ask about motivations, right? Like that's where it all starts. Why do you want to get out? Why do you want to travel? What caused you to book a trip? So for this particular study, you're looking at families. What do you say are the main motivations for family travel? What's getting, parents and kids on the road?
Right. So let me just quickly start by telling you guys about this particular survey. So as you know, it is a US travel trend report. So we survey around 1,000 American travelers every quarter. And this time we were especially, covering this topic, family travel. And this is around 40% of our travelers. So that's a big segment, as Sarah mentioned. Now, talking about motivation, our data shows that family bonding is the most important factor that leads to family travel. And then, second is investing in experiences. Now, that might or might not be a post-pandemic thing, because now people have started investing in experiences even more. People have, bonded over those pandemic years as well as a family. So that might have been a post-pandemic change, but the biggest reasons, as stated in the survey, have been family bonding and shared experiences. And on top of that, people also feel that these are educational experiences for their kids, which I personally believe so as well. I have a 2-year-old son, and I've taken like around 6 international trips with him in 2 years, and I have seen him, adjusting better to situations, to places in 2 years. So I can only imagine families traveling with older kids, how they can grasp, global perspectives, just different nationalities, different ethnicities, knowing about stuff. So that again, I think, is one very, very important factor.
I think it's fascinating that you use the word investment, and education is also an investment. So I love that it's invest in experiences, invest in education. It's about, I guess, invest in family time. I think that's a really cool insight that I guess for a travel marketer, then the idea becomes return on investment, right? How do you provide, if families see this as an investment, how do you provide a return on investment? I think that's a cool way of thinking about these trips.
So another thing that the report showed, Varsha, was that it's not just, parents and kids who are going
Hmm.
on these trips. It's parents, kids, and grandparents who are often going on these trips. So we call that multi-generational travel. Fancy name for like putting everybody in the car and or the plane and going somewhere. So we've done this in my family. And it's a whole lot of fun, and it's a great way, especially if you're kind of spread out all over, to get cousins, aunts, uncles, everybody goes on a plane and finds themselves, at a resort or an Airbnb. So tell me a little bit more about how multi-generational travel shows up for the US traveler.
Right. So just to give a number to this, it's around 46% of family travel is multi-generational travel. Now, talking about the factors that would be driving this particular kind of travel, I think one would be that celebratory travel has picked up. So a lot of again, like giving a personal angle to it, I know that in the last few years, for every kind of milestone, birthday or anniversary, people tend to travel, and then you want to involve the entire family, and that just calls for a multi-generational trip again, obviously. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the prime reason or the prime motivator of any family travel is shared memories and family bonding. So when we talk about family bonding, it again is a multi-generational concept. Of course, we want to involve as many as possible. Then also travel accessibility, because I think it's, the kind of modules or the kind of offers that the destinations or the travel suppliers are coming up is a very holistic kind of experience that they're giving, which suits all kind of generations. So they would have something for the grandparents also, they would have something for a 2-year old also. So I think the experiences being offered have also broadened, so that also might be contributing to this multi-generational travel concept.
Do you think that short-term rentals have really played into this as well? Because it seems like I remember from when I was a kid, that wasn't really a thing, right?
Correct.
And so you could only go to hotels and
Yes.
get or a resort and get, a
Yes.
bunch of rooms. But now you can go and book a, mansion or like some like
Totally.
incredibly large house and put everybody in and it's
Yes.
got 7 bedrooms or whatever. Talk about that a little bit.
So we've been asking this question in our US travel tracker, right? Which accommodation do you choose? Now, between hotels and vacation rentals, we tend to ask people, okay, why did you choose a vacation rental over a hotel? And the prime reason is that they have large groups. They have the flexibility of choosing one accommodation for the entire group. So that's the biggest reason vacation rentals are being chosen. And that just fits into family travel really well. Now, in particular for this survey, we found that obviously majority are still using hotels, but there is a 14% segment that uses vacation rentals. Now that's huge, given that it's relatively a newer concept. So that's a 14% segment we're talking about, and 26%, around 25 to 26%, are using private residences. But the broad idea is that people are wanting to get that homely shared accommodation kind of feeling. So
Well,
yes, I mean that
difference
might be
the difference between a private residence and a short-term rental is basically like the private
yeah,
residence is grandma hosting
yeah,
for Thanksgiving and everyone goes to
correct.
her or a neighbor's private residence, whereas the short-term rental is everyone goes to.
Yeah.
Somebody
But
else's house.
but that
Yeah.
yeah, totally. I mean, but that's a big number, I think. And I sort of rechecked that stat again. I was like, okay, that's 14%. It's a big number when it comes to
And I
choosing a
wonder how
hotel.
much of it plays into also just like the modern family. My sister just moved to San Francisco. She went to graduate school there. She moved to San Francisco. My family is gonna have Thanksgiving and a short-term rental in California because we're gonna go out and see her and do a little bit of tour of San Francisco and then have Thanksgiving together. And I wonder if that's also like if we all lived in I'm in New York. We all lived in New York together, no short-term rental, but because the modern family is so spread out, we're definitely
Agreed.
we're giving the
Yeah.
short-term rental some business. Well, I mean, on that point, I guess I just told you where I'm going for Thanksgiving for my family travel, but where are people going? I mean, are these like when you think about the typical, San Francisco from New York, that's pretty long haul. Is that typical that a family vacation would be pretty far away, 5-6 hours? Would you go international, or what kind of trip are we talking about here? If we're thinking about the profile of a family trip, where are they going?
So this survey shows that people tend to take domestic shorter trips. So domestic being around 93% of family trips, as per this survey, and they take very short trips. So 1 to 5 days is the majority of them, as compared to an average trip, if you sort of break into one the entire gamut. So uh, those, like, it has to be a quick turnaround basically. So a 5 day trip, including the logistics, is essentially a 3 night trip maximum. So that's the kind of um, you know uh, short getaway that people are looking at. And then if you're talking about the kind of destinations they want to go to, I think this survey shows that maximum of them, like majority of them, they want to go to large cities, urban landscapes is what they enjoy, which I would like to believe is the ease of accessibility again that I was talking about. So it's easier connections because it's a quick turnaround. Don't want to waste time traveling to a particular destination. So majority go to large cities, which are easily connected. Uh, then around 30% of them want to go to smaller towns, countryside kind of destinations, which is slightly higher than what an average traveler would do. So this is the kind of family vacation that involves like a multi-generation trip, which basically like a vacation rental in a in a smaller town, countryside, where you would have a longer trip maybe. So I mean, yeah, they're like two kind of set of travelers that you can define here.
There's the people that like to spend time with their in-laws, and then there's everyone else. What you're saying?
Yes, maybe.
So let's talk about where travel agents fit into this process. Did you find that US travelers, family travelers need help here? Are they using somebody else? Are they booking things by themselves, or does it matter who's planning the trip?
So, as far as planning the trip is concerned, the again, like the survey shows that it's a one man show kind of a thing. So that there's one person in the family who takes the job and the responsibility of planning the trip. When it comes to using travel agents, like the booking channel, or like how do you plan and execute it, 65% self book their trips. They do not use any travel agent, but at the same time there are 18% of them that use travel agents for the entire thing, like from booking the flights to the hotels to the itinerary, like whatever day tours, etc., everything, the entire package. And when you get into the reasons, right, why would people be using travel agents is generally if they want to save on time and if it is a very complex itinerary. But if it is a simple one, just booking a flight to a metro or an urban city, then people just might want to self book it.
And then I know we like to ask a lot of forward-looking questions, right? That's a big part of our job. Is we Skift Research. We use these trends to identify, kind of extrapolate into the future. So, what do you think? I mean, based on all this survey and this data that you've collected, is this a growth market? Are we going to see more family travel into the end of the year? We're going into the holiday seasons. Are we going to see more family travel into the holiday season and also into 2025? What does the survey tell us? What does your data tell us?
So, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, it is the largest segment that we're talking about, which is around 44%. And if you talk about the anticipated spending changes, we asked the family travels in the last quarter that, okay, how much do you think your travel spending on family travel is going to increase, decrease, or is it going to be the same? So, 46% of them say that it's going to increase, while 32% believe that it's going to be more or less the same. So, that's around 78%. So, but having said that, the majority still wants to spend more on travel, family travel, which would mean that it is set for growth for next year.
All right, so let's leave it there, go to a break, and we'll be back on the other side with more from Varsha on family travel. Welcome back, everybody, to the Skift Travel Podcast. We are talking with Skift Research Analyst Varsha Arora about family travel. So, Varsha, I want to talk about the challenges that families have. So, families can have challenges when coordinating their lives and coordinating everybody's schedule and likes and dislikes and preferences. So, talk a little bit about how that showed up in your research report. What are the biggest pain points for families trying to plan trips?
It is kind of exactly like what you said, Sarah. It's basically, I think the survey shows that one is budgeting. So basically,
Mhm.
the expenses, how do you manage that? That's one pain point. And the other is coordinating schedules. So since it involves a lot of people, multi-generation mostly, it's a lot of back and forth when it comes to fixing a particular time to travel. then it's also about, keeping everyone entertained on the trip. So everyone has, as you said, has their own preferences when they're traveling. I might just want to, attend a music concert, but my grandfather wouldn't just not be interested in it. So how do you fit in all the priorities, all the preferences in one trip? So that's around 15% of the people I'm talking about. So these are the sort of the top pain points, and obviously then we get into the logistics of it. Some people feel that, just coordinating and getting the travel logistics done, the visas, etc. It's also one of the issues that was highlighted by the travelers.
Yeah, the multiple interest thing, it makes me think of my family vacations. My dad really likes being outdoors, and we did one camping trip, and my mom had to come around, and all the kids come, and everyone has different opinion. And yeah, it's challenging is a good word for what happens when you bring when
Yeah,
you
I mean,
drag along people who don't want to be doing it.
yeah, I just went to Hanoi with my in-laws and my son, who's 2 year old, and my in-laws are in their 60s. So we took them to the zoo, and they were just not happy about it. So yeah, I mean, people gotta adjust, but yeah, it's all about managing the preferences, I think.
Well, so we're talking about different stuff, talking about going hiking, talking about zoos, talking about specific stuff, and we did ask about that, right? So you have highlighted some trends that where families have somehow, some way, managed to find consensus about what they really like to do on their trips
Yeah.
through some act of God, right? So what would you say are the currently the marquee family trips that where you can kind of get everyone to agree?
So I think the top one that came out was culinary tours. So 18% of
Everyone likes
them.
to eat.
Yes, of course. I mean, that is something that just like it's the common binding factor. So food is something which is a big part of family trips. Then the second was entertainment. As I was talking about musical concerts, festivals, I think that is something which might have shared interest from multiple generations. Uh, so that was like the number two preference that came out. Then the third was around just simple enjoying nature. No, you can't go wrong with it. Every generation is going to like it. So that was the third one
My
that
dad,
came
my
out.
dad managed to find a way. My dad managed to find a way on this
I'm
camping
sure.
trip, but that's okay.
No,
Yeah.
I don't camp, Seth. I'm with the rest of your family. Like you guys can go to your campsite. I'll be at the hotel.
I'll get a
Thank you
spa
very
done in the
much. Yeah.
meantime. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but the top ones were these basically: food, entertainment,
Oh,
enjoying a wildlife viewing
we might
session,
have
or
lost you,
maybe
Varsha.
just
Yeah.
visiting historical monuments. So those were the top ones that came out.
So, Varsho, tell me a little bit about what the report found on so-called skip generational trips. So that's when I send, my 12-year-old down to Florida for the fishing trip with grandpa. Uh, is that still a thing? Do people do that as much as they maybe used to?
So I also have been reading about it, but to my surprise, the survey shows that this is a very, very small segment of family travel or within family travel. Now, if multi-generation trip was 46%, skip generation is
Hmm.
around 14%. So that's very small as far as the numbers are concerned. And even if we talk about the likeliness of people taking family trips next year, uh, like 46% of them want to take family trips. And when we ask them about if you want to take multi-generation trips next year, that was around 30%, but skip generation was around just 18%. So yeah, that is a very small segment
Do you
that
know
we're
why?
talking about, I think.
Like, is it something that, you know, today's parents just can't let go, can't give up their kids for a weekend? Everybody just wants to go. Why? Because it used to happen, I think, a pretty fair amount.
Yeah, I think that is one very big reason. I mean, parents just prefer, control uh, over the cost, the logistics, their kids. I mean, and also we were
Yeah.
talking about shared experiences, right? So when you talk about skip generation, it's too much of a generation gap to sort of come to a common point. Now, when you have multi-generation trips, there is still some sort of like you have the middle generation to sort of bridge the gap, but when it's skip generation, it's difficult to decide on those shared uh, trips or shared tours that you would want to do. And then
Yeah.
also it's age gap. I mean, if the grandkids want to go hiking, the grandparents might want to, it's just
I think
basic,
that's a shame.
the age gap or
Yeah.
Yeah,
the health or the
I think
energy
it's a
levels.
shame. I
Yeah.
think it's good for everybody. Learn to compromise, be a little independent. Like I remember the first time I sent my teen tween on an airplane by himself down to Florida. Like when he came back, he like walked into that airport like he owned the place, you know, like he did it by himself, right? He was so proud of himself. So
That's so funny,
I don't
Sarah.
know.
I remember. Yeah, I have a very
Yeah.
distinct memory too. My first time flying alone. I think it was for summer camp though. But and that's a similar thing.
Yeah.
Sarah, I know we like to joke about headline titles sometimes. I feel like it's like the helicopter parrot comes for family travel, comes for grandparents travel, something like that.
I agree. That's a good one. So, Varsha, what was the most surprising thing for you to come out of this report? Was there anything where it was kind of like a head scratcher, like, oh, all right, didn't expect that?
The multi-generation trips, I didn't expect it to be
Uh,
that big. That was one thing. I didn't expect it to be like that. It's 46%. That's huge. That was big, and I was actually expecting vacation rentals to be uh, pretty high. Like I assume that that would be a big accommodation segment for family travel. So on an average, like we've been tracking the usage of vacation rentals over time in America, right? So for an average trip, the usage is around 12%, and for family travel, it's 14%. So it's not much of a difference. You would expect it to be much bigger for these larger groups. So those are the two things that were like, okay, good to know.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
mean,
new
I think you're right.
thing.
Like that's so you said 46% of family trips are multi generational, and you said family trips are what 40% of 44. So it's 46 of 44.
44,
So I mean,
yeah,
just doing
around
that
that.
math,
Yeah,
it's almost like 1 out of 5 U.S. leisure trips is a multi generational trip. Is what we or is it one of it's one of so that's
multi-generation trip.
huge. That's yeah. I mean, that's a big number. All right. So
That's
what
huge.
I mean, so here's the next question then. What
Yeah.
advice? So if 1 out of 5 trips is a big even 40% of family, 1 out of 5 is multi generational. I mean, I want to ask this question two ways. What advice would you give first? What advice would you give to travel companies who want to capture this market? What's the move?
I think the first thing has to be, the products or the offerings have to cater to all these generations. You have to keep that in mind. That's your biggest segment. Uh, I mean, as we were discussing, right? So you have to have something for everyone. And I think second is just making it seamless. Since we're talking about very, very short getaways, right? We do not want to waste time in, waiting for a cab or just simple things. Just make the logistics easy. You have to give shared memories, a good feeling to this entire family. So seamlessness is something that they would be looking for, because they would have already racked their brains coordinating about it or for the trip. So the once they reach there, they do not want to waste any time and just get into it.
And do you have advice for the families themselves, for our listeners who are planning their own
Patience.
family trip?
Yeah, so I think one is plan in advance, book in advance, because price is something, as we said, I mean, one of the biggest challenges is budgeting. So these are price conscious customers. So please book in advance. Second is please experiment some, uh, you know, different accommodation choices. I think vacation rentals should be, explored more, because, I mean, it. So we did ask this question in our survey, which said, okay, what are the factors that you take into account while booking an accommodation? So the top ones were safety, security, and all of that. But one of the things that struck me
Mm,
was connected rooms. So that was around, if I'm not wrong, that was around 15 to 16% of people. Now, that's something we're talking about. I mean, just experiment with accommodations. If you happen to, maybe take a vacation rental, it just might give you more time to spend with each other and also just take care of all those challenges that we were talking about earlier. Yeah, I mean, that's that. And just, but I mean, having said
Enjoy
that,
your
keep
trip.
it flexible.
Enjoy your trip.
Enjoy your
Impromptu.
trip.
Just,
That's the ultimate advice.
Yeah.
Enjoy that time with family. Well,
yeah.
Varsha, thank you so much for joining us. The report is live now on Skift Research, research.skift.com. Go check it out and check out all of our quarterly travel trackers. We do this every single quarter, new topic every quarter. This quarter's topic was family travel. It's going to be something different in the next 3 months. Hope you'll check it out. Varsha, thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing your insights with us.
Thanks, Varsha.
I really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to the Skift Travel Podcast. Wherever you're listening, please make sure to subscribe. If you like what you're hearing, rate us 5 stars or leave us a positive review. It really helps get the word out about us, our podcast, and make sure that we can still continue to bring it to you free of charge every week.
If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell as well. That way you'll know every time we have a new episode.